How much of your product strategy is based on evidence and how much is based on instinct? Every WordPress product owner has opinions about what drives growth. We all have ideas about which features matter most, where customers come from, what's worth spending time on. What if your analytics told a different story? If you've ever wondered whether you're solving the right problems or simply following your gut, this conversation's for you.
This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights, product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zack Katz with GravityKit.
And I'm Katie Keith from Bantu.
And before we get started, if you benefit from WP Product Talk, we'd love your support. And you can support the show by hitting subscribe right now. It only takes a second and makes a huge difference. Thank you.
Yep, and huge thanks to Freemius for being our exclusive growth partner. Freemius helps software makers to grow, monetize, and succeed. They're a merchant of record platform, which means they handle everything around selling software, checkouts, payments, subscriptions, licensing and updates, global tax compliance, and that leaves you free to focus on building amazing data-driven products.
Yeah, so speaking of data-driven products, Katie, we have a data-driven product, awesome expert person with Derek Ashauer. Derek, thank you for coming on the show. We're so pleased to have you. Please tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. My name's Derek Ashauer. I've been making websites since 2002-ish. Shortly after joining WordPress, I think my official WP.org profile was 2005, which I made to submit my first free little utility plugin. I was doing client work on the side after getting my first web job out of college, and then, like many of us, then doing a little bit freelance on the side. Then got enough business to start working for myself, doing the glorified freelancer or independent agency, however you want to call it. During that time, I also, in 2013, launched my first product called Sunshine Photo Cart, my first paid product, I guess I could say. That's a complete e-commerce plugin for WordPress, specifically for photographers. So it's not built on WooCommerce. It was actually built before WooCommerce even existed. I actually built some of the code based off Jigo Shop, if you remember that. So that's, has payment gateways, taxes, shipping, all those deals, all handled by myself as my very first product plugin. And I really do not recommend going to that scale on your first plugin. That was, it's a lot. And then about 4 years ago, I went the complete opposite direction and started making some fun little plugins based on client ideas. So one of those was a confetti plugin. So it shoots a fun little confetti effect on the screen whenever people do things like submit forms, make purchases, sign up for membership, stuff like that. And then another one was an address autocomplete, anything. So it allows you to add Google address autocomplete to any form on your WordPress website. So it's not specific to one plugin integration, but you can any form plugin that you want to work with. Although it does have some integrations. And then a couple years ago, I woke up one day and was to change a logo on a client site and was filled with complete dread over something that would take me 30 seconds. I did the thing. I turned to my wife and said, I can't do this anymore. What needs to change? So she was very kind and said, what needs to change? What do you need to do? So I said, I think I really want to focus on my product. So okay, what do we got to do to make that happen? A couple years ago, I decided to become product first or start the journey to being product first, meaning that I spend most of my time doing products. And then the goal being that most of my income, if not all my income, comes from those products. Where right now. Yeah, so that was the goal about a couple years ago. And then thanks to the guys on my mastermind group, they highly encouraged me to build what is my primary product now called Conversion Bridge. which is allows you to add 20 different analytics ad platforms, over 20. I think I'm at 21 now, and now to 9 ad platforms, and track conversions from over 65 different plugins. So it's something that you can install on every single client site that you can imagine, regardless of what plugins or analytics platforms they're using. Get those analytics, track those conversions, which are the most important things on pretty much every site, and do it within a couple minutes without ever touching a line of code. And most importantly, never having to look at Google Tag Manager again.
Yeah. And
So that's kind of my my journey and where I'm at.
yeah, and thanks again for coming on. For those who are watching live on YouTube, please leave comments, questions, feedback, and we will ask Derek your questions live. We at GravityKit use Conversion Bridge. We recently relaunched our site last year, and part of the problem with our previous website was that we didn't trust the data that was coming in. And so we found that we were making decisions with imperfect data. So now that we're basing all of our data, we've unified everything around Conversion Bridge, and that's really helped us feel more confident in what we're doing and why we're doing it. So that's really a great lead-in into the conversation today, which is making decisions based on actual data. What does that mean? What data should we be tracking?
Yeah, I got a whole list of data you can be tracking that ranges from the obvious, setting up your analytics platform, what people come to your website, what browser are they using, what pages are they visiting, the classic analytics data that we've been used to for 30 years or whatever it is of making websites. So yeah, definitely recommend setting that stuff. It's the bare minimum that every site needs to be. The next one is tracking the conversions, and that means what you want people to do on your website. Whether that's if you have like a blog and you just want people and you're trying to build an email newsletter, you need to track every time someone subscribes to your email newsletter. Like, whether it's, that subscribe form in the middle of a blog post, in the footer, whatever, you got to track every entry point. You do that. E-commerce store, the most obvious, making purchases. If you have, you have, landing pages for like your own agency, stuff like that, those form submissions, you need to be tracking all of those so that you can understand what's actually working. And again, that's what Conversion Bridge is built to do, to make that incredibly easy to set up. But, especially for a lot of people here who are product owners, there's, a lot more stuff that you can be tracking. One of my other plugins, actually, I forgot to mention, is a little one that I randomly created for myself called the EDD, Easy Digital Downloads Cancellation Survey. So that's another good data point to collect. That's, when people cancel, you survey them. Why are you canceling your subscription? Give them some, valid reasons, and collect that data. And then every once in a while say, hey, what do you, why are people canceling? And then, and if you need to, reach out to them, talk to those customers. They rarely do call you back, but once they've canceled, they're done. But it gives you at least some data. So that's.
So Katie, what are you doing in terms of what data are you collecting from the collection side of things?
So yeah, there's the analytics side of things. We've gone back to GA4, but I don't ever log in. Derek said earlier, you get to never see Google Tag Manager again. Well, I think an even bigger benefit, like Conversion Bridge, is that you never see GA4's dashboard again. But I've built custom reports that just have everything I need on. So I gave Zack a very large walkthrough of my data.
It's impressive.
At press comp for quite a long time. So we have the best data we've ever had now, and that is not from using the Google Analytics interface. But I think we should talk more than just conversions, because for me, a key thing is how people are using your products as well as that. And I've always been terrible at this. It's always been a huge gap. And when I started building Shopify apps, I suddenly realized that they have data about how people use their products. It's a whole different thing. And Shopify people have data, WordPress people typically don't. So I started thinking, why don't WordPress people have data about usage? It's technically possible if you get the right permissions, whatever. So I've more recently been doing that. The first thing I did was a one-off audit of a large number of sites using our Document Library Pro plugin. And that was a huge eye-opener because I basically put a load of domains that were using our plugin into AI and got it to analyze things like what their industry is, what's the use case, what features of our products are they using, like are they using the table layout for their document library or the grid? And I can't believe this. More than 40% of our users are nonprofits, and I didn't know. The rest are things like healthcare, education, or really similar connected use cases. And I didn't know. Most of my plugins are WooCommerce, totally different user profile. So having that data about how people use our document library plugin has totally transformed our marketing and positioning. And even things like knowing that the table layout is way more popular than the grid layout means that we now use a data-based way to always display the table first, say on the product page or something. The grid is more of an afterthought to show flexibility. And so we've really drilled down into what features people are using. My next challenge is how to automate this. And I've recently used Claude Code to add a little, I don't really understand it. It's gone to the developer for review, but something which will basically take an anonymous snapshot of how all our customers are using the plugin. And there's no IPs, nothing that allows us to track it to them. So we're not going to get permission or anything because it's not identifiable. But I'm excited to do that for all our plugins because it's a much easier way to get that data about how they're using it.
Yeah, and when we talk about that, like the telemetry side of things, it really helps. It helps, but it's also on my side. We have a lot of different settings. We have a lot of different screens. Part of the problem that I've faced in the past is not knowing what to track because you don't want to track everything. You don't want to just be observing all your customers' activities all the time. You can't track every single setting. Not every setting is important. So like deciding what to track. Derek, do you have any thoughts on like how to know what's worth measuring?
I mean, I think, as much as you can grab that isn't personally identifiable information is what you want to get. I mean,
so when you say grab, like talk to the
like
audience here.
telemetry.
Like walk us through. What do you? Where does it go? What do you do with it? How do you analyze it? What are you talking about?
So for like a Conversion Bridge, which is a paid-only plugin at the moment, I collect, what integrations have you enabled? So are you using Gravity Forms? Are you using WS Form? Are you using, WP Form? There's so many, form plugins. Which analytics platform are you using? Which ad platform are you using? It also integrates with consent banners. So what consent banners are you using? And this dictates a lot of important things for me, from what I build in the software to how I do marketing. And for example, if I know that Gravity Forms is by far the biggest form plugin that's being used by Conversion Bridge users, I want to have a good relationship with Gravity Forms. Know someone over there in their support team. Build a relationship, a rapport, maybe be in some blog articles, talk to them at conferences, things like that. We have mutual customers. A significant portion of my customers are their customers. So it makes a lot of sense to build that relationship with that other company. One other little interesting side note is WS Form, which I love Mark. And but the reality is his plugin install count isn't nearly as high as Gravity Forms. But if you look at my Conversion Bridge data, it's the second most popular form plugin. So what's the disparity? Because Mark's has been an excellent advocate. He's been awesome, including me in blog articles. He mentions me in various places when it's appropriate and things like that. So it validates that having these business partnerships are worthwhile. It's generating sales. I have no relationship with, WP Forms or, some of the other ones. I've, maybe smaller relationship with some of the other form plugins too. And there's almost a direct correlation of, balancing, popularity of the form plugin along with my level of relationship. And that shows up in the, usage of, the integration in my plugin. So it just proves that it's worthwhile to continue doing.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about like the structure of things, because I always like to hear how people are actually implementing this
Okay.
when it comes to telemetry. On our side, we have, for example, GA4, like Google Analytics, PostHog. We run both on our website. One, because PostHog can do split testing, and also we want to kind of eventually deprecate GA4 if we're able to. We have both of those going into a Google BigQuery database, which Google automatically slurps on Google Analytics data into BigQuery for free. So if you just sign up for BigQuery and connect it, it'll do that for you. And then we have an MCP that talks to BigQuery and is able to answer questions for us like that. Our plan is, and this is toward the end of the year, we hope to be releasing this, is to have built-in telemetry where PostHog has app telemetry functionality. That includes surveys, that includes all this other stuff. That like what do you call it? The 1 through 10 like happiness score thing.
It has a name, I can't remember it.
CPS anyway. PostHog, we're planning on integrating that. All that will go into the BigQuery database, and that makes it usable by us. So that's how we plan on collecting the data. And Katie, you're just talking directly to GA4?
I'm talking to Claude, and that has access to GA4 and Search Console and everything I can throw at it, really.
And Derek, where are you gathering all, like, how are you collecting this and storing it?
The telemetry data specifically?
Yeah.
I have a custom database table on my site, and when someone opts in, it sends just a backend post to my site, stores it in the database. Also, it's hash. There's a couple of different things that are combined to create a unique hash to identify that one specific site, so we're not, duplicating everything. It is, for that individual site. But yeah, I mean, that's as complicated as I get, and then I will honestly download that as a CSV and just look through that. I mean, there's for Conversion Bridge, there's maybe 500 sites that are doing it. Sunshine Photocart has maybe 1,000 sites that are opted in. I mean, there's an opt-in during onboarding and settings and all that, so it does ask. But yeah, that's I don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't need to be all that difficult.
So once we have this information, once we have the data, Derek, you talked about changing, like prioritizing different integrations. Katie, you talked about different default layouts. What other things should product owners be thinking about in terms of what to do with this information? Like what does having this data then unlock as a product owner?
One really interesting thing that I found recently with my telemetry data, and I combined this with my actual sales data to confirm it. I think I did it. But basically, I was finding that for Conversion Bridge, there's a really high churn, to be perfectly honest. It's something I'm struggling with. And I've always had a theory about what it was, but the data, I think, helped validate it. And that was people install analytics, and then they never look at it because they feel overwhelmed and don't know what to do with it. Like you, Katie, they look at GA4 and go, what do I do with this? Which, by the way, Conversion Bridge has a simplified GA4 dashboard right inside your WordPress admin. So, but basically what it helped me identify was that when people canceled, and I identified that by saying when they stopped tracking. So I go, oh, look, this person's, because that last time, every week that I automatically sends the telemetry data. When I see it's been over like a couple months that I've been getting the last data value, I see what integrations were active on their site. I noticed they only had analytics platform. What that tells me is that and again, I'm making some assumptions, making a little bit of leaps, but combine this with some survey data where the most popular, response was, I'm not using it, was the main reason why they chose to cancel. And you put all this story together, and it starts to say is people who only use Conversion Bridge for analytics tracking probably just go, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do about all this data that that these analytics platforms are showing me. So that's helping me to inform and telling me that, when I started Conversion Bridge, I never even considered ad platforms. Honestly, it wasn't even a thought. It was just people started asking for it. And then it was like, well, duh, that's a no-brainer. Of course I should be adding the ad platforms. And it was pretty quick, like 1.1, I started adding it, after the 1.0, I think something along those lines. Um, but yeah, so it helped, confirm some other things, that ad platforms are just important. And now my marketing is around getting people who are ad marketing professionals, because those are the people that tend to stick around. Some other things, ideas I have are helping people surface insights from their own analytics, or giving tutorials, videos, and instructions for those customers on how to use their analytics data to surface stuff. Whether that's even being as, I even did this to help do some research for this, was connect the GA4 MCP and just ask questions. And then, like Katie, you notice you don't have to deal with their dashboard anymore, which is insane. I mean, that's the whole reason why I created Conversion Bridge, was to stop using the GA4 dashboard and go to an alternative analytics platform. So yeah, so that was one of the really interesting things that I found in researching and going through my telemetry data.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, doing all sorts of things. Like, ads are just as confusing to manage, and people pay a lot of money to a management company really just to look at the dashboard and make recommendations. But I've got a couple of thoughts/questions. One is about what you are doing regarding event-driven emails, because that's another way we can use the data. So are you identifying that somebody is only using Google Analytics with Conversion Bridge and sending them an email highlighting what else it could do?
I am not going that far yet. It's tough because, like I said, I guess you could do it within the plugin itself and surface some other things within, the plugin settings and other things. We notice that. I'm not doing, sending it back to my site, because again, it's not identifiable. So I can't then, from my marketing site, email them. So it could be something within the plugin itself that help surface them. Hey, it does these other things, don't forget. It could be, some simple things. These settings aren't enabled. Just wanted to make sure you are aware of that. But where do you nag versus, is it annoying versus that? You got to find that with your users and how you present it in the UI. But I think that's, just making sure that people understand what your product, make sure they know everything it offers, which I think there's other ways to inform and educate around that.
We've been digging into our data as well, and one of the important parts of our funnel for their sales funnel is our demo sites. And we've been trying to really understand the relationship of signups versus conversions versus just people not actually configuring the demos. So one of the things that we are excited about is adding additional telemetry to our plugin so that we better understand our demos from that angle as well. But we were diving in and we saw that if people didn't click into our website from the demo after signing up for the demo within like 48 hours or something, then they were not going to convert ever. But the people who did were more likely. So the whole causation correlation thing is a question, but we decided, okay, somebody signs up for a demo, we've got to email them more in the first 48 hours than we thought we were. Like, we were just doing an email for confirmation, an email for onboarding, and then one more, we weren't pushing the first 48 hours as hard as we are going to now, knowing that people convert better if they follow up with us in that short amount of time.
Where's that data coming from? I assume you're using InstaWP.
We are actually we are using InstaWP. They have a webhook that connects to Fluent CRM. And so we do have, and then Fluent CRM has a way to, show the connection between who's purchased from, so like it connects through their email address for the email that they use for the demo. So if they've purchased with the same email that they sign up with the demo, then we know that they've converted.
But how do you know when they've clicked through to your website?
Because Conversion Bridge does a heck of a job tracking. When somebody signs up, we hash their email, I think, or I don't know. It's whatever the hash is that we use on the demo matches the hash. I don't know. You can answer that better than I can, Derek. How does this work? Why is it working?
I don't understand your setup, so I'm not sure, but I'm sure you guys have got it.
We have a comment from Billy Bob Jim Patton, who writes, interaction should be the trigger, and it also tells you what is important by virtue of people using it. So they're suggesting when I was positing, like, it's hard to know what to track, that interaction is a really good indicator. That's good feedback. Also, somebody wrote, Ross Marsali wrote, I install Conversion Bridge on every new site, as do I. So, okay, we've got the data, we've got, analysis. How do we know that any of this is accurate? Like, how do we know, like, how do we actually determine whether what we're doing makes sense?
I mean, your data is never going to be 100%. And if you think that it's going to be, you're fooling yourself, and you're reaching for a goal that is, I don't even think is necessary. It's like trying to receive 100% across every metric on page speed insights. It's like, you got 98, you're good. You don't need to get 100%. You're obsessing over something that is infinitesimally, in my opinion. But yeah, you want to grab as much data as you can. And some of the ways you can validate it is by talking to people and making sure that what they're saying also corroborates what you're seeing in data. So talking to real people, real customers, real things. So, I have an agency program. People can, if you have an agency, you can sign up, get your own free license. And in return, or own free license for your own agency site, in return, I get to ask you questions first before I even release the license to you. And it's gathering pain points, but also marketing research. Where did you hear about me? Where did you do this? And just seeing if the general overall, okay, it looks like 20% are coming from search, 20, something like that. Okay, that's aligning with what I'm generally seeing in analytics. And that's one way that you can help just corroborate that what you are seeing generally looks right. Yeah, that's one way that you can do it.
One of the things we've been doing is going through, like, one of the best data sources that we have as plugin owners is the customer support tickets that we have collected over the years. And so when it comes to making data-driven decisions, one of the things I've been trying to do is, okay, here's what I want to work on. Here's what I really care about. I'm passionate about implementing this little pet project. Let me make sure that literally any of our customers over the past 12 years has ever asked for this or would want this. And having AI and MCPs into Help Scout and in the Google search, the BigQuery database that I have ingests all that as well. I can do a query now and say, like, okay, what customers would be affected by this feature, and what should I actually be building instead? So that has helped guide some of the recent product decisions, is like having AI say, okay, AI, do your thing, go to town. Okay, Fable, you're back in action. Read through all of our customer support, categorize it, identify the things that would make the biggest impact to the most people. And it used to be that would take tons of time, but with AI, it's easier to categorize and to analyze what people are actually asking for. Have you done something similar, Katie?
Yeah, well, I use your MCP for Help Scout. So I use that for various things, even things like evaluating performance or something. Are there any particular trends, positive or negative, with different support engineers or something like that, as well as looking for customer things, as you say. But you can also hook your AI up to things like your project management tool. We use ClickUp, GitHub. Yesterday, I was preparing for someone's annual appraisal and I wanted data. And so I had it go in and look at their timesheets on ClickUp and their commits and things like that on GitHub and send me some sort of quantitative performance information about their output and so on. So you can use it for pretty much anything. I have automated reports to help me get data about my team each week. So if I have a one-to-one with that team member that week, it will send me a report about what they've been working on since the previous call, how many hours they've tracked on each task and things like that. So I can say, hang on, why have you spent 100 hours on that small feature or something, and identify problems before they get as serious as they would have done before I had that data. Well, we always had the data, but I couldn't be bothered to find it before. It's easy now.
Yeah, I would agree. The MCPs and AI make data analysis really easy. I do recommend running it through, if you have Claude and ChatGPT, do both. I recently, asked it to help me with some financial statements and sort some things out. One got it wild. I just looked at it and was like,
You're
"No,
rich,
that
you're
is
poor."
yeah." I mean, one was like way off, and then I had to like, that doesn't look right. Can you try again? It did again. So then I was like, okay, now the other one, can you do it? And on the first try, then the two matched. But the first time it definitely got it wrong. So it validated. But I use it to validate. It's great. I connect it to AI to the various analytics platforms. Like I think I have 6 or 7 different analytics platforms running right now on Conversion Bridge WP right now, just to test them all out, and so that I can verify and validate it. I dog food in my own plugin, and then honestly, what I do is then I take the EDD export of my orders CSV file and say, here's my actual orders. What are you seeing in Google Analytics? What are you seeing in Plausible? What are you seeing in PostHog? What are you seeing in all these different platforms? And it has a 99.9% accuracy. So great. Things are working. It's actually recording all the purchases and all the platforms as I would expect. Going back a little bit, that's also one way to validate your tracking data, is to do something like that.
And we've had conversations on WP Product Talk that you should check out, you, the listener, about support and about making decisions around problematic customers or customers that take a lot of support time. Having AI analyze the value versus the cost of providing customer support is a great way to make decisions about how much different licenses should cost, about whether or not to say goodbye to certain customers who are using a lot of your support time, if that is a thing, or whether to reach out to customers that haven't engaged with you yet, which is a sign of potential churn. There's a lot of things like that even if we had the data in the past, AI really unlocks.
That's fantastic. My biggest things that frustrates me the most is a customer that a month later says, I want a refund. I'm like, this doesn't work, or it doesn't have this feature. I'm like,
Right.
there's no support tickets yet. What? Why out of nowhere you just say, I want a refund, it doesn't work? Well, you never asked me. So maybe jumping in front of those people before this, like, we haven't heard anything from you, we're just checking in, want to make sure that you don't have any questions. Ideally, it's because you have such phenomenal documentation and easy to use product, but it's also worth just being like, hey, I noticed there's no support tickets. Just want to make sure everything's good.
Yeah, that's definitely worth doing. And a minute ago, Zack briefly referred to pricing, which is another really great way you can use data. I used to use the agency Ellipsis to do a huge pricing analyses for me every 6 months, but now I've built a tool using Claude, obviously, which does the analysis of my plugin using the same research data and things that Ellipsis used to use. So that's for each of our products. It goes through pricing history. I've entered the entire pricing history, so it can marry that up against like conversion rates and sales and revenue and profitability and all of that stuff in order to make a recommendation on whether we should make any further price changes. And I've also got that working against the baseline, because things are down for a lot of product companies, including us at the moment. Obviously, it's going to say, oh, your revenue's gone down since you made that price change. But I've put some baseline across our entire portfolio so that would hopefully cancel out any false recommendations and look at what we should have revenue-wise. And that's really good. Also, we use it for lifetime pricing because we have a target of about 15% revenue for each product comes from lifetime licenses. So it calculates what that currently is and makes recommendations for me on whether to increase or decrease the lifetime license price. So all of that's based on data and is a really good way to improve your profitability.
You mentioned something, like how, your product's going down and AI might suggest something based because that happened to be when you change some pricing, but maybe there's other big events going on in the world or in search engines, all this kind of stuff. And one of the things I wanted to mention as another important thing is, especially for people like myself who are solo developers, or people who are very small businesses, 2 to 3 man teams, is to also overlay not just we made a price change, but things like I went through a divorce. I went through, I had a child. I went on vacation or these other things, because when you're that small, your personal life can affect what you're seeing in the data. And if you feed just raw, that data to an AI, it's going to look at all that, but it doesn't, you really got to give it the full context. I think I've shared it on my Twitter profile once, but if you look at my Sunshine photo chart, my sales chart, and I actually put on there like the date of my divorce finalized. And if you go to 1 year ahead of time, you all of a sudden see this like boop, 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 boop down. And I go, yeah, because I didn't obviously go through personal issues on that one date. It started probably around that time, and my focus I was much more distracted. And it wasn't because of probably any, I added a documentation article or added a new feature or anything like that. It was purely what was going on in my personal life. My scale going to absolutely affect your business. So even including those things on a chart, your timeline, like you can do that in many analytics platforms. You can put this happened, and it's not just we released this, we did this promo with whatever company. Put on there like had a baby, because that's something that can really impact your business. I think a lot of people listening to this are probably on that smaller end scale. That can impact what happens. So I think those life events are just as important as those site redesigns and things like that to consider in what's affecting where your business is at.
That's a great point. And I am heartened by that point as well, because AI, until it eats all of our lunches, is enabling us to do incredible things where even if we are on vacation, I went on a vacation last week and it was wonderful. I went to the beach. Before I went to the beach, I started a Fable session and I said, do this stuff, like here's what I want. Here's the goal for the day. And I came back and it was incredible, the amount of work that was done. And then I would, do it again the next day. And I wasn't actively like working, but I was getting stuff done. So as a solopreneur, that would have just been life-changing for me back and now as a small team, it still is really cool to be saying like, yeah, hey team, I took 2 weeks off. Here's all the stuff I got done.
Yeah.
So, a lot of what we've talked about is measuring and making decisions. Is there an aspect of privacy that we haven't really talked about, and like the dark side of data collection? And Europeans listening to us, I love you. I'm an American. I'm sorry. We don't care. We all care deeply about privacy. America doesn't care about privacy. How do y'all think about privacy and like the implications of getting to know your customer better from like having enough data points in a data set that represents their desires? Is that weird? What do you think about that?
I would say I lean more towards the American point of view too, as well, where, if I visit a website, accept. Yeah, have all my things. Know that I went to this website. I'm a marketer too. I hope you learned something from this. From my little visiting your webpage, I want you to do that. I always see it as you can walk into a physical retail store and have security cameras that can audit, and you can watch where people go in your store. I want to be able to do the same thing on my website. I want to see where people go in my store. Are they going to look at this product? Are they staying here? How long are they staying on it?
Well, and yet that's all creepy stuff. The smile you're on camera signs are just like, oh, smile, you have no taste. Like, how do we prevent that from being from us being creepers?
Yeah. I mean, that's why there's a lot of laws out there. That's why there's privacy first analytics platforms, why Conversion Bridge exists, so that you can actually use those privacy first analytics platforms and
And
actually track
by the way,
conversions there.
for those listening, and Conversion Bridge isn't the only platform that does this, but it integrates really well with Cookie Yes, which is the service we use for cookie consent. That is a huge pain in the neck if you don't have a service like Conversion Bridge to configure. But we use Cookie Yes. If people opt in, then all the stuff gets loaded for analytics, and it also can run only in European nations and nations that care about that type of thing. We don't have cookies consent in the US, which is nice.
I'm
It was weird when I
impressed.
went. It was weird when I went to Europe and every web page I
It
popped
is
up.
such a pain in the neck. Oh my
It's
gosh.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally with you guys on this. Despite being a European, I think it's destroyed the internet. You may find we may not be fully compliant because that's my company and my choice until something happens, which it hasn't. It's just ruins everything. It's not about protecting the user. If you're, as Derek said, just tick yes, 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 just to go away, leave me alone and let me browse the website I'm trying to visit. That is not informed consent anyway. It should clearly be done at the browser level, so you only make that decision once. So I don't agree with the way the law is implemented. I would rather see a more common sense approach, but I'm aware of the law. Like when I recently added that thing to our plugins, I made very careful that we haven't got anything personally identifiable because I do not want to bother my users. I don't think it harms them if I know they're using a table or a grid layout and I don't even know who they are for their document library. So I made sure I built it in a way that bypassed the consent issue because I don't agree with bothering people about this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, you use the privacy focused analytics platforms like Plausible or some of these other ones. There's tons of them, literally tons of them there nowadays. They are built in a way that do not use cookies. They gather the data in other ways. So you read their websites, they say that by using our analytics platform, this itself does not require you to have a cookie banner on. You may have something else on your website, a different plugin or anything like that on your WordPress website that does that. But that analytics platform doesn't necessarily
Right.
platforms. Yes, you need to have a cookie consent for that part.
So
Yeah.
Billy Bob makes a great point here and says, you trade your privacy for convenience in many cases. That is true. I want to, we end every show with best advice, but before we do that, I want to hit one more topic that we haven't really talked about in terms of data-driven decision-making. It's not fun. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to even come up with it. We haven't talked about user surveys. How do you handle that? Katie, what do you do for user surveys?
I have done surveys. No one ever replies. I send it to 20,000 people and you get a few responses. So I don't think that's necessarily the best way to get feedback. I do get some responses to an email which looks very personal that we send, I think a week after purchase. It's signed by me. It's got my picture on. It says, I read all responses, which I actually do. That is assigned to me and help scout that particular one. And we do get some really good responses via that email because it looks individual and personal. It's just like, thanks for buying the plugin. I hope you don't mind. I'd love it if you'd answer just a few questions with like 3 bullets. How did you find us? Is there anything that nearly stopped you buying from us? That kind of thing. So because it's personal and it's not some sort of data feeding statistical thing, people do actually respond to that. Often, like yesterday, there was one that gave me some really good keywords for one of my WooCommerce plugins and using terminology that was specific to his industry that he said everybody uses and I'd never heard of. So that's a keyword opportunity. But I think any wider things that I would call a survey, I've had very poor responses and don't bother with much.
Yeah, I mean, I've run surveys but same thing. The response rate, I sent, I think, out to like 3,000 people. I think my Sunshine photo cart list, I think about 5 really active. And then, about those got about 40 answers. And I was asking about hosting stuff and also about like what add-on maybe they were interested in and they could sort. sort out what's going. I could determine what add-on to be building next, what's important to those users, and 40 responses is enough to make at least help.
Yeah.
But again, it really helps to continually talking to customers. Who are on this one would be drilling that in our heads over and over and over again. He's certainly drilled it in my head. But yeah, talking to customers, and you can get those real answers from them directly, so that you're not that you can get actual answers. All kinds of things straight from customers.
Yeah, we do customer surveys. We've done customer surveys recently when it came to a new product that we were planning to build, and we asked a lot of questions surrounding the problem set to find out, is this something that people have a problem with, our existing customers? Because one of the advices that Chris Lemma gives is to sell to your customers. If your customers have another problem, then solve that next. I think that's really good advice. And so we were trying to determine, do they have this problem? And then it's so hard to know if that's if they do have the problem, is that a good thing? Or if they have the problem, does that mean that you're self-selecting by the customers that you already have, and you're not actually representing the larger problem set that the wider internet has than just your own customers? So we do them, but we also aren't exactly sure what to take from them all the time. And there's a whole, for people who are thinking about customer surveys, there's a whole data science aspect of it. There are tons of books about writing good surveys. It takes a lot of effort to really think through the questions you're asking and make sure that they're sound. So do your research about how to write a survey in the first place. Don't just come up with what you think is what you want to know, because that's not always the thing you should be asking.
Wholeheartedly agree there. And the only added point I think you started touching on it was, if you do a survey to your existing customers, like I said, hey, what new add-ons do you want? Well, those are already customers who bought with the existing set of features. So
Right.
that was enough to convince them. If there's features that you want to convince other people to finally buy your, you need to talk to non-customers, like what's
Yeah.
missing. So, and that's hard to ask those questions to people you don't have their email address for yet. So that's, customers is a tricky one, but it's still something I think it's doing.
Good point.
So we end every show with our best advice, and where we ask a quick question, like something you would say in the elevator if somebody asked you this question. What's your best advice for somebody thinking about data-driven decision making? Katie, you want to go first?
My best advice is to use the data. Lots of people collect it and think job done, but that's not how it works. There is absolutely no point having data if you're not actively using it to improve your products and your business. So if you've installed something like Conversion Bridge, actually set yourself maybe a regular reminder or something like that, even if it's every 3 months, to go through the data, really find those opportunities for improvement.
How about you, Derek?
I think it's to make sure that you look at the data from all angles, because data can actually trick you. I had one data point. This is something that I discovered and I think was really helpful, helped alleviate a lot of anxiety for me. Was I noticed that there's a lot of people. My 61% of my licenses are single site licenses, which goes against everything I thought would happen when I was selling Conversion Bridge. I absolutely thought agencies buying multi-site licenses would gobble this and be the primary thing that I was selling. It's a fundamental thing. Page Builder, your form plugin, Conversion Bridge, it's part of your stack. And then what I realized, but I was really disheartened when I learned that 61% of my licenses were single site. I just was like, oh man, my agency program isn't really doing what I thought it would do and all this kind of stuff. But when I did that, I was doing some research on my programmatic SEO efforts. What that means is, someone searches give WP Google Ads conversion tracking, something very specific, which I have 8 landing pages for every single one of those combinations on Conversion Bridge. But I learned that those were driving all those single site licenses, which makes sense. They were looking for one specific problem for their exact site. They knew they were using Give WP. and you needed to track Google Ads. And so they had one problem and they wanted to find one thing for that one site to solve it. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's actually a good sign that my programmatic SEO efforts are actually working. So it helped me reframe what I thought was a negative actually into a positive. So making sure that you're really looking at everything from all
right, and
data.
because agencies are asking different questions.
Yeah. Exactly.
Honestly, Derek, 60-something% is good. I have way more proportion single site licenses than that.
And I haven't recently looked at those numbers.
Use the data.
My best advice is to make sure you have MCPs set up to connect all your data. Derek, you shouldn't be exporting CSVs. What are you doing? There's EDD MCPs out there. Similarly, having schedules, and this is something I need to get better on. I was just on a team call today, and I was like, I need to set up these schedules. Claude Code is what I use to develop, and it has a command called schedule, where you can have an automated thing that runs on a schedule and runs these reports for you. I don't do it myself. I do not do it. So I need something to do it automatically on a schedule. So I'm making a public commitment here, people. I'm going to set up schedules for myself to run the reports that I already have as skills in my Claude Code setup. So set up skills, set up MCPs, set up schedules, get set up with automations. So that's a wrap. And Derek, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
Too active on X. Derek Ashauer.
Can you say that again? Your mic cut out.
I'm on X too much. So
Okay.
Derek Ashauer is my username on there. You can go to derekashauer.com to see all the projects I'm on. My main plugin company is wpsunshine.com. That links to all my different products from there as well. Sunshinephotocart.com, conversionbridgewp.com.
Nice.
Perfect. Well, if you're enjoying these shows, do us a favor and hit like, subscribe, particularly subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out and helps to support our work. And special thanks again to Freemius.
And next week, Matt Cromwell, co-host, and I will be chatting with Rami Corson about monetizing a free WordPress plugin without paywalling the core. I have questions. Make sure to join us next week. Thanks, everybody, for watching.